be with you like a forever chemical. I wanna be with you like a forever chemical.
Hi, I'm Craig Butts with SCIEX, and welcome to another episode of Dr. Craig's PFAS Fireside Chats. Today is a little bit differently.
Yay!
Oh, thank you, Simon. Today is a little bit different. Instead of talking about a current research paper, we're going to talk about really a key part of the Fireside Chats podcast, and that's the intro music. So, well before the podcast, there was the song, and you've heard it, you know it, you love it. And, you know, Dr. Simon Roberts here from SCIEX was the creator, really did it all for writing, performing, and producing it. So, Simon, thanks so much for coming on the show and talking about the meaning behind your song.
Oh, and thanks so much for having me, Craig. Honored to be a part of this.
Well, stop it. That's very nice. So, you know, they say artists find their inspiration in very unusual places. Maybe you can take us into your mindset, you know, almost 2 years ago, really, when you created the song. What motivated you to write this?
Yeah, I mean, I think every piece of art comes out of something, whether it's an emotion you were feeling or a certain change you were feeling. This was right after COVID had gotten crazy. I think this was early April when I started working on this, or even late March. So the feelings were a lot of uncertainty. For me too, it was a lot of time at home that I hadn't had. I'd been traveling, so it was for me a very creative time. My brain was kind of opening up in creative ways after being on the road for so long. So I was sitting eating a bowl of granola, I think, a bowl of yogurt, and I got the idea that these chemicals we're exposed to that are in our bodies forever. This is really a long-term relationship we have with the chemicals. So why not make a love song out of it? So thought, yeah, I could do that. I could work PFAS into a love song, and just started jotting down the words, and uh, that's kind of where it started. It all came out in one, maybe 5 minutes. The whole song was done, and came up and recorded it.
Okay.
Recording it took a lot longer than 5 minutes, but writing it was fast.
Yeah. All right. Well, you kind of skipped ahead. I was going to ask you, you know, what genre you would find this music in, and in fact, you indicated it's a love song. All right.
Yeah, I'd call it chemistry folk. It's a new genre.
Chemistry folk. So, I don't think the kids do this anymore, but if you went to the old school record store and were browsing through the categories, you would place it firmly in the chemistry folk section.
Yeah, it'd be next to, let's see, like Joni Mitchell, maybe right there between Mitchell and Stephen Stills,
Okay.
that kind of era.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. So we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the meaning behind the song, right? And so, I mean, it's an entertaining song, very catchy. I talked to one of our colleagues yesterday, and she confessed that after the first time she heard it, it was stuck in her head for the rest of the day. Um, but you know, besides that, there is some educational components to it, right? There is scientific meaning. So we're gonna kind of dive into it a little bit, and maybe you can help us understand the meanings behind it. So one of the first lines you use is ubiquitous and persistent in your water and your wine. Right? I'm not going to sing it because I'm a terrible uh, terrible singer. But I mean, what does that mean in terms of PFAS in the environment, and perhaps sort of more importantly, thinking about our exposure to PFAS?
Yeah, I mean, PFAS as a chemical, it being a very water-soluble chemical compared to a lot of the other persistent pollutants we see. So when you do think about exposure, like at least when I think about it, I tend to think of water as a main exposure route. Wine was a good rhyme, I think, in that part of the song.
Okay.
um, you can get exposed in other places for sure, and through our foods, but it seems to be, and also kind of based on where the pollution's coming from, which is, pretty direct contamination of our water supplies. Water becomes an extremely relevant source of exposure here.
Okay. All right.
So I guess that's where our love story starts. It's a meet cute in the water supply.
Okay. And yeah, and you mentioned wine and food exposure as well, so that's important. Okay, cool. Another line you have is "I've been there for so long," right? And so that could be, we've been infatuated with PFAS for so long, but also in terms of a persistence thing, right, in the environment in our bodies.
Yeah, I mean, we look back where PFAS really got their start. World War II, uh, making uranium for atomic bombs. That's where we really started needing things like PTFE, and that's where PFOA became useful. Um, and after that, we saw that explosion of that technology, a very useful technology, but kind of without, thinking about these ramifications and thinking that, 50 years later there'd be people writing songs about how these chemicals never go away. It's interesting to look at the history, but it's also, it's been there a long time, it's going to be there a long time.
Right. Okay. The forever chemical, um, lasting till the end of time. So,
It's a cliche, the forever chemical thing. It's something that I've been torn about even saying the words forever chemical because nothing, no chemical is really forever. But it's catchy and it's caught a lot of people's attention. It's been, I think, good for science education as long as you understand the context.
sure.
So.
Yeah. Um, I want to be your heart, right, to pump me through your atrium ventricle, right? I think I got that right. But this concept of the PFAS flowing through our bodies, being in our heart. You've already mentioned that this is a love song, right? So there's that connection there. Um, but tell us, why you picked the blood, right? Because typically, back in the older days, right, we thought about the other halogenated, chlorinated, and brominated contaminants, right? And those behave a little differently in the body.
Yeah, when you think of PFAS in your body, it is kind of funny, like with this relationship that it's flowing through our bodies, but yeah, right through our heart, so that it fits with the love song, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, these chemicals being a little more polar, and if you think about their structure and their characteristics, they do resemble things like amino acids, fatty acids, the things in our bodies that are mobile and move around and get transported to different tissues for different reasons. They don't seem to resemble as much. Well, PFAS is a huge class of chemicals, but what we're talking about here, the PFOA, these shorter chain polar PFAS, yeah, they don't behave like those legacy compounds because those used to stick in the fat so much.
Hmm.
They used to kind of not be as available, not as floating around. If they were pumping through your heart, it was at much lower levels compared to maybe what was in your fat. Whereas we're seeing, a little more broad distribution with the PFAS.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of proteinaceous rich tissues, blood, kidney, liver, those sorts of things. But yeah,
Yeah. I want your heart to pump me through your atria and ventricles. There you go.
beautiful, beautiful. There we go. Little sample. All right, so that's great. So that's some of the scientific meaning behind the lyrics. So we'll get into a little bit of fun here. Um, the shirt, right? You mentioned it in the song. You've got your captions, but give us a bit of background for that shirt because I'm extremely jealous of the shirt. I was there when you got it, but yeah, take us through it.
Yeah, we've got fish here. This was when we were in Australia,
Yeah.
right, Craig? Um, we've got the TCDD, I think is
Yep.
that's what we got, the tetrachloro dioxin, floating around with the fish, which I mean that compound's going to be in the sediments, right?
Yeah.
Not so much in the water, but that's okay. Yeah, and this is Australia, so that's I guess the theme of that conference was the dioxin 2012. Was that right?
Maybe. Yeah, it was a long time ago.
2010?
Um,
Long time ago.
but yeah, of course, you do have to let us know who gave you the shirt, right? Because that has a connection to the PFAS song.
Yeah, I got this shirt from a good colleague. I think actually probably handed to me by Scott. Hallstrom at Wellington Labs,
Yeah.
who've been, a great collaborator with me back from then. They, threw some good parties back in that day.
Well,
And a party with everybody wearing these shirts is a real party.
yeah, and of course, Wellington Labs, right, who have been making PFAS standards, both the native and labeled standards, for a long time, right, a kind of real leader in PFAS standards. So, a lot of people want to move on from the pandemic, right? They want to put all that behind you. So, if you were to do another version, right, a remix of it, if you would, what direction would you go? Hip hop, rap, you know?
That's a good point. Rock ballad. Um, so one thing about this song in general is if you think about it, it's a happy song, but it's also a very sad song. It's about, it's about being stuck with chemicals in our body, but it's a very upbeat tempo and it's very happy. If I was probably to do it as a sequel, I would do a very sad, somber sounding song,
Okay.
but try to focus on more lyrics on how things are getting better and how, we are moving on, like almost like a post breakup song. We're moving on, we're getting better, we're finding maybe some other chemicals that are
Okay.
in our body now. So
All right.
that's probably the direction I'd go.
Okay, with a love song, maybe would you think about a duet? I mean, who would you want to pair up with?
Um, Sure. I would definitely need a female singer to complement. Let's go with T Swift. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Shout out to Taylor Swift.
Okay.
Go straight to the top.
Bold choice. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have for today, Simon. Really appreciate you, first of all, creating the song and allowing us to use it for the podcast. Um, Really great intro song, and it's an educational song and also one that pulls at the emotional heartstrings. So thanks so much.
Yeah. Yeah, and I encourage you, Craig, get out there and sing loud and proud. Everyone has a voice.
All right. Thanks so
Don't
much,
be shy.
Simon. Yeah, looking forward to featuring you on another episode with a new PFAS song.
Okay,
All
that
right.
pressure's on.
Thank you. Bye. I didn't want to say it, but after this airs, you might have to get an agent.
Yeah, my guys might have to call Taylor Swift's guys.
Yeah.
Be with you like a forever chemical.